Welcome back. It is 15 minutes past 8 o'clock. You're watching BT Vancouver. Thanks for joining us. Finance Minister Bill Morneau is set to appear before a House of Commons committee looking into the government's cancelled We deal with the We charity. The deal, worth more than $900 million, would have seen the organization run the Canada Student Service Grant Program. It was scrapped because of the Prime Minister's ties to the charity. Morneau, like Trudeau, is being investigated by the federal ethics watchdog for possible violations of conflict of interest rules. His daughters have ties to We.
We're really not sure what we should get out of him. It should be interesting, of course, because Bill Morneau, he has apologized for not recusing himself from the cabinet vote ratifying the deal. As we've learned, one of his daughters works for We in an admin role, and another one has spoken at We events. The Tories and the NDP, while they'll be happy to talk to Bill Morneau, they really want to talk to the Prime Minister. At Ethics last week, they brought up the fact that, we're not interested in the rest of the Trudeau family. We just want to talk to the Prime Minister.
Well, as our economy continues to ride the ups and downs of the pandemic, some luxury vehicle drivers are trying to get out of pricey leases. David Zura has this story.
People's circumstances and lives have changed because of the pandemic.
If you're on CERB and you've got a $1,000 a month lease, you've got a big problem.
Over the past 2 months, our economy has been on a roller coaster ride, plunging as the effects of COVID-19 set in and rebounding as optimism around government stimulus efforts were set up to manage the fallout. But now is the internet starting to show some telltale signs that even luxury markets are coming under pressure?
Circumstances have changed, and few people predicted that we would be in a situation where our economy would be in essentially a free fall.
Paul Doroshenko is a Vancouver lawyer. He says he started seeing a surge in Craigslist posts from owners of luxury vehicles trying to find others to take over their pricey leases.
Having experienced a few recessions in my life, I recognize some of the trends, and one of the trends we see is with these, with respect to these leased vehicles, where people are suddenly in a desperate situation to get out of their lease or find somebody else to take over the debt.
He says he recalls seeing the phenomenon at least once before.
Yeah, actually I did back in 2008.
This is Karan Wahi's Craigslist post. The realtor claims he wants someone to take over his lease so he can get a larger vehicle. He says it's surprising how long it's taking.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm telling you, due to the COVID thing, situation might have changed. Otherwise, this thing should go away first week. I'm not getting a lots of lease takeover guys, the buyers for this vehicle, so it is just sitting on my parking lot extra one. That's it.
He says there were a couple interested buyers, but he found out from the dealer neither actually qualified to close the deal.
That's it, because maybe they don't have a job or they lost a job or something like this, I guess.
Meanwhile, the Better Business Bureau says lease takeovers themselves are perfectly normal, but has a warning for both buyers and sellers.
Be very cautious about anything that's being posted online right now.
She says COVID has created a perfect storm for scammers.
So if you are posting a picture of your vehicle, I would want to protect the license plate. Where are you taking the pictures for this car? Is it in front of your house? Is your address clearly visible? Can I find where you are when you're making this post? On the flip side, what is the condition of the vehicle? Is there paint damage? Is there body damage? Is there engine damage? Do you want to get a certified mechanic to inspect the vehicle before you even take it on?
In Burnaby, David Zura, City News.
Calgary City Council has voted in favor of making face coverings mandatory in indoor public spaces. The new mask requirement will take effect on August 1st and apply to all city buildings, buses, trains, taxis, malls, and grocery stores. Failure to wear a mask can result in a fine of up to $200. Children under 2 years old, as well as people with underlying medical conditions or disabilities, are exempt. The province has hired more staff and increased operating room hours to catch up on canceled surgeries. However, a big surge in COVID-19 cases could impact recovery. BC's health minister says more than 32,000 procedures were not done or scheduled in order to save beds for potential coronavirus patients. Adrian Dix says the number of people waiting for procedures ballooned to more than 95,000.
We have key targets in our surgical renewal commitment. We said that we'd start calling patients May 7th to reschedule their surgeries. 62,744 patients have now been contacted about their surgery. we said we would start surgical services on May 18th and would increase over 4 weeks to near normal pre-COVID levels. On June 25th, we achieved 97% of operating hours for the same period in 2019. Given where we were starting from, an extraordinary achievement.
The surgery backlog could be cleared in 15 months, down from the previous forecast of 2 years. The province will be spending $6 million a year to help support BC's search and rescue volunteers. That's on top of almost $20 million for groups last year. Since January, crews have responded to over 700 calls, along with the funding announcement, BC's Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth had a message for British Columbians.
COVID-19 increases the health risk these dedicated people face when they're called out. So we're asking British Columbians to do their part to reduce search and rescue emergencies by making sure that they're prepared when heading out into the outdoors. Anyone heading out should stay on well-marked trails, pack the right provisions and clothing for the weather, plan ahead of time. It's critical that someone knows where you're going and when you plan to be back, even if you're experienced in the outdoors.
The BC Search and Rescue Association has been working with the province on a long-term approach to funding since 2013. Crews will be able to access the new money in 2022. A miraculous story in Russia, where a 16-year-old soccer goalkeeper survived a lightning strike during the warm-up for a game. Video from earlier this month showed a lightning bolt landing on Ivan, who hit the ground unconscious. He was rushed to hospital and induced into a coma. The only permanent damage is a burn mark on his chest where he was wearing a chain. Less than 3 weeks later, he's back on the pitch, saving goals for his team. And over the past few days, many of us have been looking up to the sky. A rare sight is catching the eyes of astronomers and space enthusiasts, and you can only have a few more days to see it. Our Mike Yanni is learning more about the comet Neowise. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mary. Good morning. Have you seen the photos on social media of Neowise?
I have seen it. Yeah, I haven't seen it in person because I go to bed pretty early, so I've been missing it. But the photos look pretty cool.
They are incredible. This is such a fascinating topic because, we hear about comets all the time. Halley's Comet, of course, one of the most famous comets. But scientists say no, these comets are kind of coming around. But this is the really cool thing about Neowise. This just came on their radar in March. It goes by the name C2020F3. But as I said, it doesn't really roll off the tongue. So they call it Neowise after the satellite that discovered it. And so this is fairly new on the research, on the radar for researchers. It's fascinating. This comet is about 150 million kilometers away from Earth, and Mary, it's only about 3 kilometers wide. So you might be wondering, how on earth are you able to see a comet that small, that far away with the naked eye? And I mean, that's the big thing. You can see this with the naked eye. You don't need a telescope. You don't need binoculars. People have been snapping photos with their iPhone, with their other devices, and that's because we're not actually seeing the comet itself. As it gets close to the sun, and I'm learning this all, by the way, I'm not an astronomer. I'm learning this all from a doctor standing by here next to me at the Rothney Observatory here just outside of Calgary. But he was saying that debris starts to break off and melt as it gets close to the sun. And it creates an atmosphere around the comet and a tail that is many, many, many kilometers long. And so we're actually not seeing the comet, we're seeing the atmosphere that the comet is creating as it's starting to melt. It's pretty fascinating. And the other thing is that we're pretty lucky in Canada we get to see this. The further south you go, you can't see this. Some of the top states, the northern states, will be able to see it, but really Canadians are getting the best view of Neowise over the next few days. And that's the thing you have to keep in mind too. It's only around for probably another week or two max, and then it's going to be going away into the distance, and that means it's going to get a little bit colder. That means less melting, less burning, and as it gets further away, it's going to be harder to see. And I want to point out that yes, you in Vancouver can see it too. You want to wait about an hour after sunset, and you want to look to the northwest and about 20 degrees up. Now, if you're living in downtown Vancouver, you probably want to go to the burbs a little bit further, but you can see it with the naked eye, and that's the coolest part about this.
Wow, okay, I'll be heading to my cousin's this weekend. She has a telescope, so I'll be sure to take a look, and I'll try to stay up past 9 o'clock.
You don't even need the telescope. That is the cool thing. And I want to say, try to see it if you can, because once it gets out of distance and out of eyesight, it's not going to come around for another 6,500 years. So it really is a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Incredible. I had no idea Canadians had the best view. How lucky are we? That's incredible.
Prime seats, right?
Prime seats, front row viewing. Okay, thank you so much, Mike Yanni, for joining us this morning from Calgary. We're going to take a break. We'll have the day's top stories coming up. Stay with us.
Losing all my innocence, everybody